Good afternoon, and welcome to Jeff and the Rabbi. In this week's Torah portion, it commands us to be holy. Now that sounds like such a deep, awe-inspiring concept. Words almost make us genuflect in solemn reverence. But what does it really mean, the term? Reverence. Well, okay, feel it. But what does it mean? What does the term holy mean? The actual word holy is used every day in our everyday conversations. We've all heard of the Holy Spirit, the Holy Scriptures, the Holy of Holies, the Holy Bible, Holy Smokes, Holy Cow, the Holy Grail, the song Holly Holy by Neil Diamond, Holy Jeans, the Holy Roman Empire, and of course, Holy Bagpipes, Batman. But what does it actually mean? What does it take to actually be holy? Well, the rabbi says there are two ways that you could be holy. There are two ways to be holy. Number one, avoid sexual immorality. And number two, do all things in moderation. Now, of course, the rabbi's answers just pose a ton more questions for me. What the heck is sexual immorality? There's a pretty wide range of interpretation in that. Do we mean an Orthodox woman showing a bit too much ankle with her Purim costume, or just an inadvertent shadel slip at little Moishi's bar mitzvah? I think I need some more direction here, because I have seen things that would even make a transgendered Reconstructionist rabbi blush. The second part of the definition is about moderation. Being a person who has never been known for moderation, whether politically speaking or anything else, I am again befuddled with this definition. I have actually witnessed, true story, I have witnessed a 400-pound man finish off in two entire plates of fried crab cakes in literally 97 seconds. I timed him. But then ordered a Diet Coke. Is that what you mean by moderation? For me, to be better prepared to be your adjutant in this Torah discussion, I need some more clarification. I need to understand your supporting assumptions for this theory. I mean, holy theological bewilderment, Batman and Rabbi. Where are you going with this? Will the rabbi be able to explain his rationale behind his assumptions? My phone is ringing here. Sorry about that. It's kind of ruining the whole thing here.
Your arm going to get longer.
It's going to get longer. Will the rabbi be able to explain the rationale behind his assumptions? Will Jeff get over the horror of seeing a bloated man instantly cram 3,600 calories of colossal crustaceans in his clammy kisser? Get the answers to these questions and more on today's episode of Jeff Man and Rabbi.
Right. And will someone answer that phone?
And will someone answer that darn phone on this episode of Jeff Man and Rabbi?
Yeah, I wonder if we can put the two together. Do immorality in moderation.
Yeah, really. That's what I was thinking. Okay, I'm all right with that.
I'm going to keep my immorality in moderation.
Right,
Just
I'm
don't
fine.
get excessive with
It's
it.
So that should be okay.
Yeah. Actually, it's really interesting. Before even we get to the definition of holy, I want to take a half a step back. You start up by quoting the Torah in this week's Torah portion. So the actual quote, God says, speak to the children of Israel and tell them, speak to all the congregation of Israel and tell them, you should be holy because I am holy. That's a really interesting idea. You should be holy because I am holy. Right? So, as someone said to me, because he's holy, I got to be holy? I mean, after all, he's God.
Yeah,
right?
It's true. He's got more practice at being a holy.
God, I mean, he just does that stuff,
Right,
you
that's
know?
him.
Me, golly, I'm not, you know? So he's God. Of course he's holy because he's God. So this is a really fundamental idea that is very much at the core of being Jewish and of those religions that I think borrowed their foundation from Judaism, as opposed to all the pagan religions and everything like that, which Judaism primarily came to be an alternative to.
Right.
So the idea of being holy because I am holy. God says, be holy because I am holy. So what that means really is that we're supposed to try to imitate God.
Okay.
There is I've only read this, I've never heard anyone speak it because I've really never heard anyone speak Latin, except maybe
I can speak Latin.
I hear the Post and the Pope. And the Pope is in there, gives the speech, and
I can teach you Latin.
E pluribus unum, and that stuff, right? So there is a word which I'm most likely mispronouncing, but it's imitatio Dei. Imitatio Dei means imitate the Dia, the deity.
Right.
Imitate God. Imitate God. That's really an interesting concept because there are a lot of people that are, I guess you'd call it, God observers, observant of God's commandment.
Right.
They do what God says, but they're not necessarily imitators of Him. The observant ones will say, God says do this and God says don't do that. So you know what? I'm going to try to do this and I'm going to try not to do that because if God said so, I'm going to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to get crushed.
Right, kind of fear of God thing here.
Yeah. You ever heard of hell? I don't know what goes on there, but I don't want to go there.
It's probably not pleasant.
Right.
Probably not pleasant.
Right. Years ago I saw a cartoon like a Far Side, and in hell, all the dogs are delivering the mail.
Okay, well, that would be crazy.
Right. So
the Snowball's chance down there. Then.
Yeah, that's right. All the snowballs are just like wasting away.
Not working.
So most people, we don't really know what it is, but we don't like it and we don't want to go there. So if God says do this and God says not to do that, I will avoid it. Now, mostly, I'll avoid things because I don't want to get caught and I don't want to get punished. It's sort of the method of driving my car. When I drive my car, I drive down the street, I size up what is the likelihood of there being a policeman on the street.
I'm with you there.
What's the traffic look like? What's the weather look like? What's traffic moving along at? And then I decide how fast I should be going. The last thing on the list is to look at this sign that says what the speed limit is.
That makes sense.
That's one way to do it. Basically, that means I don't want to get caught. So I will moderate my speed if it means I'm going to get caught. But if it means, if I think it won't get caught, I won't moderate my speed. I'll drive whatever I want, and I don't care what the sign says. That's kind of like the observant mode. The observant mode is I'll do what I need to do not to get hurt. More than that, not necessarily. If I think I can cut a break here, I'll take it.
Well, you remember I told you that story one time. I don't know why this reminds me of it. I have a friend who was getting married, and I went to his bachelor party, and we were in Costa Rica, and I told this story. And his friend was very observant. And they were going to rent ATVs, but it had to be on Shabbos. And this kid has never not, if you can use double negative, because it's Spanish, we're in Costa Rica, has never not observed Shabbos. But he said, God's not in Costa Rica. He got on his ATV, smashed into a tree, broke his arm within 5 minutes. So he weighed the situation as well.
Welcome to Costa Rica.
It didn't work as well. God is in Costa Rica. That's just
even in Costa Rica, right?
Yes. Right.
Yep. So that is because I would say he's kind of observant, right?
Yeah.
And he certainly didn't want to get roasted, but he figured, listen, either God's not in Costa Rica, God cut me a break, or it's only one time, or whatever. Otherwise, you do it when I'm back in New York, and whatever. But he's certainly not an imitator.
Right.
He's not an imitator. An imitator just wants to try to be as much like him as he can be. Now, of course, in the pagan world, no one ever presumed that they could ever imitate a deity, because that's ridiculous. You just want them not to hurt you, but you can't imitate them. Abraham was the first one that tried to imitate God, and the Jewish people, ever since, have been promoting that idea of really trying to imitate God. God is good, and the more we can act like him, the better we and the world will be. So, for example, a God imitator gets up in the morning and says, well, what's God been doing ever since he got up this morning? Oh, he's been feeding people and giving them air to breathe.
He's been doing some good stuff.
Straightening out the bent over and freeing the prisoners and,
right.
And helping the tsetse fly find its
Sounds
breakfast.
almost like what we say in the morning.
Yeah. So therefore, maybe what I'll do is I'll help other people, and I'll provide and all that stuff. That's the way imitators think. So imitators in every situation will always be trying to imitate God, because they know that if that's the way God likes to see the world run, then that's the way we want to do it. You know, how many times do, my kids will see me doing something, setting up something in a certain way. Why are you doing that? Why did you buy that one? Why didn't you get this one?
Right.
Because that's the one that your mother likes,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Makes her happy, that's what we do, right? Why it makes her happy? Why does she like to do it that way? It's not really my job to figure that
Right.
out.
Your job is just to make her happy.
Right. My job is not to figure out why does that make her happy. That's what she decided. That's what we do. That's where the imitators come from.
Right.
And imitators, they're working on a whole different level. So God says, I am holy, therefore you should be holy. Okay?
Right.
So we're imitators. Now let's get to holy. Holy is a really interesting word. In Hebrew, the word is kadosh. The letters kuf, dalid, and shin. Kadosh. Kadosh has got a whole bunch of, a family of words that many people are familiar with. Many Jews are familiar with the fact that on Friday night they recite something called Kiddush.
Mm-hmm.
Same root, Kiddush. Marriage, the act of marriage in Hebrew is Kiddushin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And there's a whole bunch of them. We could go through all kinds of examples. What is the underlying meaning of that three-letter root, kuf, dalid, and shin, those three Hebrew letters? The underlying meaning there is separate.
Okay. Didn't know that.
Separate. So, you always ask, I do this a lot. Sometimes I'll have bar mitzvah kids, bar mitzvah girls in, and I'll ask them, it talks about like Jewish people are supposed to be holy, and I'll say, what does holy mean? Sometimes they'll say, kadosh.
Okay, well, that's
I say, okay, where's kadosh mean? And they'll go, holy. Yeah.
I gotcha.
So what does holy mean? Here's this word holy, and no one knows what it means.
That's a tough one.
See, what it means is separate.
Separate.
No. What does that mean? Separate, I mean, we know what separate means, but like in what way? What do you mean holy is separate? Well, if you can think about something, what is the separatist thing that exists?
Oh, that would probably be God.
God, right?
Yes.
Because God does not like anything else.
Yeah.
Totally separate.
Right.
His
That's
own, God's got, God just is. Everything else
Right.
is dependent on things and limitations, and I mean, on and on and on and on. We could talk about what everything else is, but whatever everything else is, God's not.
God's not.
God's just not.
He's the separate
He's
thing.
just totally separate.
Right.
Okay? So God says that I want you to be separate. I want you to be separate. So there's two approaches. You mentioned them. There's two approaches to being separate. One of them comes about through your sexual morality. Sexual morality is a really fundamental mode of human expression.
Yeah.
And when we say separate, we mean to try, in whatever way possible, we can be separate. Now, separate, one of the primary modes is that we don't just do whatever we want, with whomever we want, whenever we want, however we want.
You've not been to California lately, have you?
Right.
No, okay, sorry.
Right.
Different area, but go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry to interrupt. I just,
Yeah. Right.
You must be in a
I
different
wa-
world here.
I was in
Oh,
California.
that's right, you did.
I was in California this past summer. I saw a lot of homeless. Now they're having a big argument in San Francisco about how to deal with the homeless. They're campaigning, two different campaigns. They're figuring that conservatively so far, $30 million has been spent on the campaign to try to figure out what to do about the homeless.
It's got to work then.
Right, and many more millions will be spent. Of course,
Right.
if anyone were taking the $30 million,
Give it to them.
that's something for them. But
Never
right.
mind. That's just
Yeah.
dumb answer. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry to get you off track. Dumb answer.
Right. Right. So, separateness means that when I go and engage in something, I
Right.
do it in a separate way. One of the first ways to do it is I separate someone, like my wife.
Okay.
And that's what the word kiddushin means, to separate. I walk out into the world and I separate her, and I say,
Okay.
you are separate now from everyone else. You are separate unto me. and she accepts my ring, and she is therefore separate unto me, and I'm separate unto her, and we are now like exclusive. And that means that we don't just engage in our sexuality, which is very personal and very much a part of us, with just anyone. We only engage in it with the two of us, which makes us separate in a separate unit. You and your wife are your own separate unit, and you are you, and I am me, and you do your thing, and I do my thing, and yours is separate from mine, and nothing to do with mine. Right? And the way we do it, and how we do it, and when we do it, all these things are prescribed. So the commentator Rashi looks throughout the Torah and he says, very interesting thing. Whenever God's talking about morality, sexual morality, he talks about, usually the word holy is found somewhere in that context. He gives a whole list of times when we find the word holy. You will find that the Kohanim, the priest class within the Jewish people, are the holiest. They're the ones that have the most restriction within who they can marry. They have more restrictions who they can marry than anyone else. So that's Rashi's idea. The idea is you take something that's very, very essential to my human expression, and I restrict it and I separate. And I say the more essential it is to me, the more it needs to be separate. So we don't make it common. We don't display it. We don't put it out there. We don't do it casually. We don't even talk about it all that much. We don't make it common. We make it very special, very treasured. Person waits to the right time, in the right place, and the right person. It's all very, very circumscribed. That makes it separate, and that's why, and it's so essential to me. That makes me separate. Separate makes me holy. By exercising separateness, that makes me holy.
Interesting.
Ramban, Nachmanides, lived after Rashi. He takes a different approach. He says, if you observe all the things it says in the Torah, that doesn't make you holy. That just makes you observant.
Okay.
Where does holy come from? Holy says, now that you're in a kosher mode, a permitted mode, now try to make yourself holy. How do you do that? By stepping back from things that you could do. By separating from things that you could do. For example, the Torah says don't eat a pig. Being holy says don't eat like a pig.
Wow.
Everything on the table is totally kosher and totally permitted.
Tough.
Now you can make yourself holy by eating in moderation, by not gorging yourself, by eating properly and appropriately.
So the Ramban was way tougher than Rashi.
In
Take it to the next level.
In a certain way. He says to go to the next level. That's where within those things that are permitted to you, you exercise restraint. So within things that are permitted to you, don't do everything that you could do. So let's say this, 18-layer cake is permitted to you.
Right.
That doesn't mean you stick your face in it and just start eating.
That could be a problem.
Right? You exercise moderation. And that's where in all areas of your life, for things that are permitted, exercise moderation. Moderation will develop holiness. But either way, why? Because I look at this cake. This cake is totally permitted. This is not like the non-kosher cake. The non-kosher cake, that's off limits.
Not eating that.
Can't eat that.
You can't even have much of the kosher cake.
But the kosher cake, you might say, well, hey, this is permitted. I'm going to polish this thing off.
Right.
Big tub of kosher ice cream.
Yes.
Polish it up.
No.
No. That's what, you can polish it off and it'd be totally permitted. But if you want to be holy, take a cup and that's it, and stop there.
So my extra large double cheese Shabbos pizza probably is too much then. Shabbos is it? It's extra large. That's not a good idea. That's just too much.
Yeah, one time I had a friend, and I didn't know this about him, but we had a luncheon, and there was served pizza. I said, take a piece of pizza. He said, no, I'm not taking any pizza. I said, come on, piece of pizza. He said, I'm on a diet. So I said, one piece of pizza is not going to wreck a day. He says, you don't know me. If I eat one piece, I eat the whole pie.
I've been there.
Right?
Pizzas, I have a weakness.
Right. One piece, it's the whole pie. And I got it. So for him, moderation actually means not eating pizza. But it's really my real moderation, and it's a real tough one, eating one piece. That's a big challenge.
That would be the ultimate. That's holy.
That would develop holiness.
Well, I have a problem with holiness. I
Yeah.
don't know if I could eat one piece of pizza if it's all sitting in front of me. I would have a problem with
That would develop holiness. I think the second thing that would develop holiness would be not eating it at all if you think that you can't control yourself. That would
Right.
probably also engender some holiness. But if it's a pepperoni pizza and it's not kosher and you don't eat it, that doesn't engender holiness. You're just following the rules.
That's a rule.
That's just the rule,
observance.
right.
Okay.
That's
So
the
that's the
rule.
difference between observance and
Right.
holiness.
That's the observant folks, and then there's the holy folks. So either, according to Rashi, it's desisting from sexual misconduct, and according to Ramban, it is restraining yourself when it's permitted. Those are the two.
I mean, it's that simple though. I mean, there's no okay.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
holy because I'm giving charity. I'm holy because I'm helping the old lady across the street. That's not holy.
Not necessarily.
That
no.
because actually I'm supposed to be.
Right.
That actually
That's
is.
not
So
really making
I'm just
you-
being observant in that.
That's right. That's not really making you holy. Holy taken on to the next level and taking
If I carried the lady across the street, would that be holy?
taking it to the next level
That's
requires a measure of restraint and separateness.
No, that's
So you
interesting.
might be separating, according to Ramban, from the last 3/4 of the tub of ice cream, or according to Rashi, you might be separating from the next door neighbor's wife.
Right.
You know, but it's
Stay
different
away from the
right?
little girls' camp. I got
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
I know that part. Okay, and no ice cream. Pretty
That's
simple
it.
directions for holiness there.
That's it. We boiled it all down
Put
to
something
that.
now in perspective where I can understand it now.
We got it down to your terms.
We got it down to my terms finally. I understand. That is actually interesting because nobody really does talk about the definition of holy.
Right.
So it's restraint both ways. It's restraint, but one's more of a it's restraint with your sexual misconduct or your sexual behavior, and the second is just moderation.
And this is why.
Not moderation in your sexual misconduct.
Right. Well, this is why, getting back to your monologue, which
Right.
I never ever do.
I've noticed that. I have noticed that.
Yeah.
I don't take offense, but I've noticed it.
Right. But getting back to your monologue and the lady with the shaitel and all
Right.
that, this is why you will find in many communities such an emphasis on modesty and restraint within the community and separation of the different
Yeah, I was
genders
thinking of that too,
and
yeah.
things like that. So all these things that you find is because they are striving for holiness.
Right.
And they really want to keep separate and not make any mistakes or indulge in this area.
And going that extra mile maybe doesn't mean, oh gosh, I'm going to give in, and if I can't handle, if I shake a woman's hand, it's just you're going the extra step. You're making sure.
You're making sure, and they want to be holy, and they say, you know what? If I shake the hand, or if the person doesn't dress appropriately, that brings us one step closer to
Right.
to transgression, and that would lead to unholiness.
Unholy
We don't wanna
behavior.
go there.
I got it. That makes sense.
Okay.
Good definition is actually good. I've learned something today.
Okay.
I learned something every day. I learn something every week, but this one I actually, in my terms, I can figure it out.
There you go.
All right. Next week, I guess we'll be back with another great and educational episode.
Yeah.
Jeff and the Rabbi.